What's up, guys? Chris Brown from Train Boston coming at you with another wellness moment. Today, I want to take it back to basics and talk about something simple: protein. Now, if you know a little bit about protein, hang in there and stick with me because we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the topic. So let's talk about the basics first. What is protein? Well, protein is a macronutrient, one of the three. We need carbohydrates, protein, and fat in our diets. We need protein to survive. It is essential. We use it to build, repair, and maintain muscle. That's what most people know. But it's also used for enzymes, and specifically, we love it because it carries oxygen to tissues through hemoglobin. It is truly the building block of life. It even makes up roughly 15% of the average human's body weight, which is quite a bit. It's very significant. It has 4 calories per gram in our food, and it's not something our bodies like to use for energy. It's kind of inefficient in that way because we need to use energy to break off nitrogen bonds to turn it into glucose or give it energy properties. So it's not very efficient, and our bodies do not like to use it. Luckily, when the nitrogen bonds get broken off, it's a pretty useful measurement because we can see if we're low, balanced, or high, and that will tell us if we're able to build muscle or not. But where does protein come from? Well, it comes from mostly animals and animal products. You're gonna, typically like cow in America, chicken in America, lots of fish and seafood. But you're also gonna find it in eggs and dairy, and then even in beans, and to a lesser extent, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. Most non-meat products don't have all the essential amino acids in them, which we'll get into in a second. So you do need to mix and match certain foods, even if you are eating soy and quinoa and different types of buckwheat, etc. Even though those foods like soy and spinach do seem to have a lot of protein in them, you do have to watch out because some of them have protein binding effects, and they can lower protein absorption overall. When you can cook them or ferment them, that can make this better, but that is something to take into consideration if you're not eating meat at all. If you eat plenty of other protein containing foods, you're absolutely fine. There shouldn't be any problem. But what if you don't get enough? Well, if you don't get enough protein and you don't get enough complete amino acid profile type foods, it can result in deficiencies. Specifically, we see a lot of B12 deficiencies in America. It can lead to lethargy due to poor oxygen delivery. I briefly mentioned hemoglobin as something we need more of to bring oxygen and shuttle it to our organs. It can result in hair loss, brittle nails, poor skin quality. And it can even make you gain weight, ironically. And you can also have cold hands and feet as well. What is protein made of? Well, I said I'd get to this. Protein is actually made of amino acids. There are 20 amino acids that we have in our body, and 9 are essential. What that means is we cannot actually make those 9 amino acids, and we need to ingest them through our food. And then there's 6 more that are considered conditionally essential. The essential ones are histidine, isoleucine, leucine, valine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan. You probably heard of tryptophan from having turkey, which we're getting close to. But these are the ones we need to eat through our food. And like I said earlier, some foods do not have all those in them. A piece of beef will have all that in there. A piece of chicken will have all that in there. But some types of grains and beans may not have all of them, so we need to mix and match. Okay? Conditionally essential means sometimes we need more of them through our diet to help regulate certain things. If somebody has certain types of diseases or dysfunctions, they may need more of this. And some of those you may have heard of, and branched chain amino acid supplements might give you more arginine, for instance, or glutamine, and they can help with stuff like stomach repair or even performance in the gym. But you do produce those to some extent. All right? And that leads me to the topic of supplements. People always ask me about, should I be taking protein supplements or should I be taking branched chain amino acid drinks? Well, let's dig into that. Leucine, isoleucine, and valine are the 3 specific amino acids that we need for building muscle. You're going to find those supplements, branched chain amino acid supplements, BCAA supplements at a Vitamin Shop or GNC. They're all over the place. You can even buy them on Amazon. Most protein powders will even list the amount of amino acids in their profiles on the side, though most people probably don't read that, and you don't need to. The most popular common protein powders are whey and casein. They come from milk. They aren't actually necessarily dairy, but they're broken down into their protein constituents. And you can also find pea-based, plant-based protein powders, and even albumin, which is egg-based, and soy or and meat-based protein powders as well. Very interesting. While dieting, drinking branched chain amino acid drinks can help prevent muscle wasting when you're hypocaloric, meaning if you're eating less calories. A lot of people do that when they're dieting. They're working out at the same time. And bodybuilders and other strength athletes will want to lose weight for a competition, but they don't want to lose muscle mass. So those can help in that way if you sip on it while you're working out. There's also some evidence to show that it can slow muscle breakdown and microtrauma, meaning you will have potentially be less likely to experience delayed onset muscle soreness or DOMS, which some people hate. I actually kind of like feeling sore. It reminds me that I actually worked out. But also, due to this effect, it could also help people with diseases or malnourishment because it slows and halts that muscle wasting. And they don't want that because they want to feel well. And while you exercise, your blood levels of these branched chain amino acids deplete as you use them. And some studies show that it can prolong your time to fatigue. This could be related to when you work out, you have a decrease in tryptophan, one of those essential amino acids. And tryptophan is converted to serotonin in the brain, which could potentially decrease fatigue. A lot of people have heard of serotonin. It makes you happy. If you're feeling good, you're less likely to feel fatigued. And that's what's potentially thought. But of course, you could just eat more protein in your diet, and you could actually just eat whole foods or have some protein shakes here and there. And you don't need to worry about any of this. But sometimes getting the protein you need is tough. So how much do we actually need? Well, the recommended daily allowance, or RDA, is 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight as a minimum. Most people don't deal in kilograms in America. So for a 125-pound woman or a 154-pound man, that's about 46 and 56 grams respectively. Those two weights are what the RDA or what the USDA said was the average at the time, and that's pretty much not the average American, especially not nowadays. The average weight of a man now is almost 200 pounds, and the average woman in America is 166 pounds. While this may not be healthy, it could be. It depends on your weight and your height and how much muscle mass you have. Remember, the numbers are minimum requirements, okay? So these are based on nitrogen balance studies. So we need to get at least that amount, okay? And so you're probably not getting enough protein. Many people are not. Additionally, those who are trying to build or maintain muscle mass, like strength athletes, and pretty much all athletes really, anyone that's doing lifting or playing football or soccer, sprinting, those are generally strength athletes. And pregnant and nursing women, growing children, and those who are dealing with stress or recovering from injury or surgeries need even more protein. So at minimum, you want 0.8 grams per kilogram, but that's not enough for all these people, okay? Generally, without doing too much math, getting 20 to 30% of your calories from protein is a good starting point. That's going to be 4 to 6 ounces of quality animal protein per meal, assuming you eat 3 meals per day. If you don't want to eat so much meat, and you can definitely fill in the gaps. You can eat vegetarian-friendly foods like yogurt, eggs, beans, quinoa, buckwheat. There's plenty of options. Even tofu, which is a fermented soy product, a little better, can help fill in those gaps. There's plenty of ways, and as I said before, even protein powders if you're okay with drinking those, protein bars, etc., etc. But protein can also be helpful when trying to lose fat. All right, so it has other uses. First, it helps you build muscle, which requires more energy daily to maintain. Second, protein is very satiating, meaning it makes you feel full faster than the other macronutrients. It does this through increased leptin sensitivity. Leptin is a hormone that makes us less hungry. Ghrelin is the hormone that makes us more hungry. So we want a better leptin sensitivity. And especially when you chew your protein, foods that actually require you to masticate and chew, you will feel full and happy. It's been proven that chewing food actually makes you feel fuller. Due to satiety, these people who eat more protein tend to eat less calories overall, which is great for most people. It can also help us regulate blood sugar levels, which is especially important for people with diabetes. And since it's used to shuttle oxygen to vital organs like hemoglobin, through hemoglobin, getting enough is definitely important for exercise. But can we eat too much? Well, you may have heard that we can, but it's very difficult to eat too much protein unless you have a kidney disease. Generally, you shouldn't have to worry about it. All right. You can eat up to 3 grams per kilogram body weight with no detrimental effects. That's been shown in some studies. A 200-pound man would eat over 300 grams of protein in a day, and they'd have to do that quite a bit to even come close to being an issue. Protein will not make our blood too acidic. Our bodies regulate this very tightly to 7.4 pH, right around there. I think it's between 7.35 and 7.4. If our pH drops too low, becomes too acidic, we will literally boil our own organs. If it gets too high, that will cause other problems as well. So our bodies are very good at stopping this from happening. Okay. In fact, too little protein can be very detrimental to bone health. Some of the people who say we shouldn't eat too much protein say it will leach calcium from our bones. But quite the opposite is true. In fact, most people are getting too little protein along with other nutrients that we need because they're eating less meat. And pairing this with a lack of strength training results in a lot of people with osteoporosis, osteomalacia, and related issues. So what's the takeaway here? Well, for most people listening to me, they're going to want to know how this affects your diet and your eating. Most people are trying to be a little healthier, feel a little better. So let's look at most of the diets that work. All right, all the diets out there, they have something in common if they work. Protein intake stays consistent. That's a big thing. You got to eat protein, and you're trying to eat protein with every meal you have. All right, your intake won't really go up or down too much. All right, as long as you're getting a decent amount. You should eat more fruits and vegetables, and you should eat less processed foods. And to some extent, you need to have some portion control. But I want to simplify that even more, okay? So there's a thing called the protein leverage hypothesis. Dr. Robbenheimer and Stephen Simpson, researchers from the University of Sydney, they did a lot of research on how animals eat protein. And they wrote this book called Eat Like the Animals, What Nature Teaches Us About the Science of Healthy Eating. And through their studies with animals and protein intake and their diets, they came up with this hypothesis that states human beings will prioritize the consumption of protein in food over other dietary components and will eat protein until needs have been met, regardless of energy content, thus leading of overconsumption of foodstuffs when their protein content is low. So what does that mean? If you are lacking, say, a certain amino acid that's essential, you will continue to be hungry until you get that amino acid, meaning it will lead you to eat more protein. If we eat enough protein, we're not going to be hungry. But if we don't get enough, we're going to continue to be hungry. Now, this is still a hypothesis. While very compelling, you don't want to take this for fact right away. Though there should be have a piqued interest in that statement. The study has been shown not to be the case when we're presented with hyper-palatable and hyper-processed foods with high in fat, high in sugar, and high in sodium or salt. Animals who were given those kind of foods, say your typical McDonald's burger and French fries, would not eat this way. So that's the interesting fact is we are those animals eating these hyper-processed, hyper-palatable foods. So even if we're getting a deficiency in our protein, we're not necessarily eating towards that end because of it. Because we're getting these foods, we can't actually stop ourselves from consuming. So here's what you should try. Getting rid of the processed and palatable foods, getting rid of all these extra carbohydrate-based foods, eating a consistent, balanced diet with more protein, more fruits and vegetables, and obviously water as well. And just try to live without that other stuff. See if your hunger will lead you to eat more or less protein. Even if the hypothesis doesn't hold true, it's going to be a good start to eating healthier and to becoming a better athlete if that's your goal. Just try it out. Try to eat more protein. Try to eat less processed foods. This doesn't mean go eat McDonald's burgers. It means go eat something that is natural. That is, for instance, some grass fed or grass finished bison or cow. If you don't want to eat anything that's meat based, try to eat some natural organic free range eggs. And if you don't want to eat anything like that, you can go and just have a good mixture of beans, peas, legumes, quinoa, buckwheat, all that stuff. But just take away the processed stuff. Make your own food and see how it works out for you. I guarantee you'll feel a lot better. So that's all I got for today. I hope you learned something about protein and had a good time listening to what I had to say. Until next time, be well.